Klaus, we know each other for almost 10 years. And every time I see you in a different country, you're like the classic operator guy who's like a vagabond moving on from place to place, opening theme parks all over the world. How does this life feel like?
Well, it wasn't planned like that from the beginning, but it's kind of when you get into the opening of new projects, you have to move to where the projects are.
I remember one day I met you in Vietnam. You were at Happyland Vietnam. That was one of these projects that never came to fruition, right?
Yeah.
But you were on the payroll for some time, you were preparing the potential launch or the construction start, and then it just evaporated.
Yeah, as we were, at the end, we were probably 50 expats that was from different disciplines that all came together to set up the team there, and then boom, the project stopped.
Okay.
And then I stayed on for more time, used Saigon as the base and worked on projects in China, in Korea, in Thailand at that time.
There was also Ferrari World Korea potentially, right?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I have a list this long of stuff that never materializes. Stuff that are still alive, but projects can take 10 years to mature. As before they find the land, the partners, the sponsorship, the money, get the creatives on board, get the license, IP signed on, and so on. So, I mean, I think all of us has worked on more projects that never materializes than stuff that actually opens.
You were the general manager of the very first Middle Eastern major theme park. That was Ferrari World back in 2010, 2011, right? For 3 years or something like this.
Yeah.
So like a pioneer. And you trained people like Filipinos and Indians and people in the Middle East who've never seen and operated something like this before. What kind of experience was that?
Well, you're absolutely right. As we came out, the very, very first visit to Yas Island at the time, the island was only sand. It was four-wheel drives out, and that was how the whole thing started back in 2007. And then it took 3 years to do the fit out and did the opening for. We had some very specific dates because of the race weekend that it had to open with the Formula One race. The great thing about Abu Dhabi at the time was there was no precedence of anything. I said there was no other. There was Wild Wadi existed at the time. You had Aquaventure had opened on the Palm, so you had 2 water parks, but there was nothing in the theme park business. So we literally started with a blank piece of paper. We set up the operating company, and we developed all our own HR procedures for how it was going to be done. Recruited very, very wide from the beginning. We were 46 different nationalities when we opened. We had about 900 staff at the time. So it was a great, everybody brought their ideas on how are you going to do this and how can this work, and trying to break them up in groups. And so we were very specific with the induction training. It was all levels. I said you would have the directors having induction and the initial 3-day course, along with people that just came off the plane from distant countries at the time. So they all had to work it out like that. From many of them first time away from home and stuff like that. And of course, at the time in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, it was all compounds where everybody was living together. So we had to develop all that as well. Costuming, the internet cafes and the bookstores and the little supermarket and all that. So, but on the training side, we spent probably more time on training than a lot of other projects. And I think that made the difference that we had extremely good feedback on the customer service that we provided at the time when we opened.
You just mentioned it had to open in time for the Formula One race, right? I feel like, I'm seeing this industry for the past 10 years. I feel like every single theme park opens in a state of panic. Why is that?
No, but most of the time you have a deadline that you're working to, and for many different reasons. That then this slips and that slips, and something misses a container ship and doesn't arrive there in time, and so it delays the opening of the installation of the rides and so forth. So it's a multitude of things, and then for Ferrari World specifically, I said that was the date, and opening 2 weeks after the race when everybody's gone makes no sense. So that was why that became very, very urgent. that opened. Disney always picks a date and works toward that, but it's not related to anything other than a date, and they normally meet those dates.
How was your time at Disney?
It was great. It was my first experience. I came from IKEA. I had a retail background, so I really started in shop operations at the time. And then Disney is has a great tradition of moving people around. So over the 6 years I was there, then you move around, parking, ticketing, guest relations, attractions, special events, and so on. So you get a very, very good duty manager. Being a duty manager in Disney Park is fantastic because it really opens your eyes to, you get into control rooms for the shows, and you see when they press the button for the fireworks, and you're in the kitchens and see how they prepare the food, and all of that. So it was fantastic years, and it was the first new property that opened up in Europe. As you had a lot of the old, there's a Tivoli and Efteling and Gardaland and so on that are old European parks. A lot of them started out as family, and still a lot of them family operated and so on. But we were really the first school for theme park management at the time. We were 18,000 staff in April '92 when we opened, on the hotels and the theme park side. But that was, over those 6 months, it was like D-Day, and you had new recruits arriving on the buses every day, being unloaded, and walk this way, walk that way, and blah 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 blah, and getting all the paperwork in place with the IDs and costuming and cafeterias and all that. So it's a big machine to open up these places.
You're Scandinavian, right?
Yep.
Danish.
Denmark, yeah.
So Scandinavians are famous for having a very, let's say, employee-empowering management style. I believe that is your management style.
Yeah.
Can you apply this to every corner in the world? Because you live in all these different cultures. Is it the same? Do you apply the same Klaus management style to every single country you work in?
No, I apply Klaus everywhere. That's the same. But it's some places it's easier. But at the end of the day, it depends on whether you're fully in control, or if you're advising. Because some of the projects we only advisors and helping with the training and setting up strategy plans, marketing plans, and all that kind of stuff. But for the management style, we always work with entry-level, first job, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. It's easier if it's one country where they speak the same language and so forth. So you have some language issues, you have some cultural issues where, a lot of times, the boss is the king, and you can't say anything against, or you can't even come up with ideas. So it takes time. The big advantage we had with Ferrari World was we started with scratch. We came specialists from 4 corners of the world, had 4 directors that came from Dubai, so the experience on how do you do this, and we had very, very early on, we put a lot of emphasis on empowerment, delegation of authority type thing. Solve the guest issues as far down in the system as possible, and had very, very good response with that. A lot of people say to them, you cannot make Filipinos and Indians make decisions, and then you have to be provocative and say, says who? If nobody has ever tried, all it can do is fail, and then we have to go back to a more stricter hierarchy and so on and so on. But it worked like a charm.
You got very good feedback from the guests.
Yeah. We had an outside company did the audit, because it was like, but you're doing your own numbers. But there was the exit survey on all of that, and people actually said they've never at that time seen the response time so quick, and how frontline staff was able to solve issues. Because otherwise it's always I have to talk to my team leader, who has to talk to the assistant manager, who has to talk to the manager, who has to talk to the director,
right,
and so on, before you get any solutions to any of these problems. So.
Thank you so much for your time.